Hello, I'm Nancy Barr, Curator of Photography at the Detroit Institute of Arts. I'll be taking you on a quick tour of a new exhibition on view, Russ Marshall, Detroit Photographs, 1958 to 2008. Russ is a native Detroiter and graduate of Cody High School. He had picked up photography as a hobby when he was a teenager. Most of his photographs in the exhibition were made using traditional photographic methods. Russ processed the film and enlarged the photographic prints in the darkroom. Early on, he found inspiration in its streets and its landmarks like Michigan Central Station, the Ambassador Bridge, and even Detroit's annual Thanksgiving Day Parade. In the photograph Construction Watchers, Detroit, Michigan from 1960, Russ shows a view of pedestrians, many looking north on the city's main thoroughfare, Woodward Avenue. It's a scene from the city's financial district, located in the heart of downtown Detroit. Onlookers stand in front of a barricade, as this area and its surrounding neighborhoods were dramatically transforming in the post-war years of the last century. In another one of Russ's early photographs from 1959, he ventured into Michigan Central Station. The station closed in 1989 and was abandoned until recently, but during the 1950s, the trains were running and travelers passed through. The two gentlemen pictured here were sitting in the men's lounge, and Marshall, who had a great eye for natural light, waited until the sun streamed into the waiting area, and as the two men looked up, he snapped the photograph.
I think I was home on leave from the Navy. I went to boot camp, and we ended up in the train station here. This is the men's lounge, where the men sit and smoke and read their newspaper and maybe take a nap. Dennis and I were sitting at a big table in the middle of the room, and I knew I wanted to take a picture of these guys, but I didn't want to fumble around. And I was all ready to shoot, and I brought the camera up to my eye to shoot. They weren't looking at me at the time, but the minute I brought the camera up, they looked at me, and I took a picture. I must have looked guilty of stealing something. Probably had that look on my face. And the one guy with the newspaper came up, and he wasn't real mad, but he kind of scolded us for taking their picture without asking them. And then he went back and sat down.
The photograph Detroit Skyline with Water Tower from 1979 was taken on the MacArthur Bridge leading to Belle, a public park situated on the city's east side. Russ offers a moody interpretation of Detroit looking southwest. Warehouses and cement plants could be found along the Detroit riverfront, and the Ambassador Bridge appears in the distance. As the decade was coming to a close, the heavy clouds may have indicated uncertain times, although looming upwards to the right are the towers of the Renaissance Center, a symbol of Detroit's economic resurgence. From the late 1960s through the 1990s, Russ found inspiration in people from all walks of life, as well as in Detroit's thriving music scene. Photographs in this section of the gallery show just a few of Detroit's finest jazz and blues musicians, and show us as well Russ's skill at photographing a range of personalities he encountered at society events and even counterculture love-ins on Detroit's Belle Isle in 1967. This photograph shows bassist Don Mayberry performing with the Jimmy Wilkins Orchestra in 1993. Mayberry was a member of the American Federation of Musicians Local 5, and this image appeared in a solidarity feature called This Working Life.
They were really expecting Lionel Hampton to come in, but it turned out that his plane was grounded in New York due to a snowstorm or rainstorm or something. But the concert went on, and he was very expressive, and this is one of my favorite photographs.
In another photograph, we're transported back to the spring of 1967 on Detroit's Belle Isle. The title, Becoming Dylan, is a tongue-in-cheek reference by Russ to the folk singer Bob Dylan. It's a candid portrait of a young Detroiter participating in a love-in, a day of peace, meditation, and psychedelic drug-taking, and one of many that took place across the U.S. that year.
This is not Bob Dylan's son, but he would probably like to be one of the many interesting people there.
Fast forward to the 1980s, and we get a glimpse of Detroit's classical music audience waiting for a performance by the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Russ captured a humorous moment brought about by the interplay between many in attendance that evening and at center is one of Detroit's well-known philanthropists and arts patrons, Stephanie Jermack.
Yeah, I was on assignment for the DSO here at the opening night at that concert hall down on the river. What's the name of that? Ford Auditorium, yeah.
Ford Auditorium, not Fisher House.
So this was opening night, and yeah, I was under Gary Winogrand influence at this point, although it looks more like a Ouija. Again, a lot of interesting characters, and I just plant myself and shoot what comes into the frame, I guess.
In this section of the exhibition are Russ's candid portraits from Detroit's legendary workforce. The decades were challenging for auto workers in Detroit. As the industry was changing, jobs were lost, our manufacturing sectors were evolving with the needs of the auto industry. Russ and I spent many hours reviewing his work in preparation for this exhibition. We wanted to make sure that our visitors would see the faces of makers behind the automobiles, those who worked in our local and nearby factories that gave the Motor City its name. Russ always connected with his subjects. His father had worked on the Chrysler DeSoto plant assembly line. So when I look at the labor portraits, I see his connection to these people and the need to give working people visibility and respect, and make sure their stories and faces were not lost to history. They also knew he was there shooting for labor magazines. In this group portrait, Detroit Steel Laborers from 1979, Russ stopped a group of men just outside their plant. It was a tough day because they all knew this plant would be closing within the year.
This was one of my first assignments for the UAW, and this plant was just getting ready to close a few weeks after we were there. Dave was there to do interviews, and I was there to take photographs.
In our selection for the exhibition, Russ wanted to recognize and emphasize the role of women and their contributions to Detroit's workforce. As he photographed in many factories and plants, he encountered women working on assembly lines and earning a living for themselves and their families. This photograph always strikes me for its warmth and real-time surroundings. It's a lighter moment and captures a group of press operators at the Fisher Body Trim Plant on 4th Street in Detroit, shot in 1982.
This photograph was taken at the GM Fisher Body Trim Plant on West 4th Street in Detroit, and it closed a few years after this shot was taken. Again, I was on assignment for the UAW, and the writer who usually accompanied me would interview people, and I would do my usual thing, just wander around and take photographs of what I thought looked interesting or pertinent to what he was interviewing people about. These ladies were very happy to have their photo taken.
For a photographer, the strength and success of their work is not only technique and vision, but access to people and places that others would likely never have. In a photograph from 1985, Russ gives us a rare glimpse into engine assembly at the Ford Motor Company River Rouge factory in Dearborn, Michigan, where access for photographers was and continues to be restricted. And rather than a candid portrait, Russ shows workers on the line at one of Detroit's oldest auto manufacturing plants, still in operation today. The photo gives us a sense for assembly line work at the time, its repetition, and physical endurance. Thank you for joining me today, and I want to thank Russ Marshall for his many years of dedication to photography and the people of Detroit. I hope we see you soon at the DIA. The exhibition will be on view through June 27, 2021. Visit our website at dia.org for more information about the exhibition or to plan your next visit. Russ Marshall, Detroit Photographs, 1958 to 2008, is made possible with major funding generously provided by TCF Bank. Additional support is given by the Friends of Prints, Drawings, and Photographs, Dr. Cynthia Chow and David B. Chow, Lindsay and Tom Buell, and Alessandro F. Uzzelli.